So here we are, February 2024, and last week it was Tim Brighouse's funeral. It was a smallish event that happened in a primary school, fittingly, around Oxford, where Tim lived with his wife and where he's been for quite a long time. Indeed, before he came to Birmingham, he'd been Chief Education Officer of Oxford, but he came to Birmingham around the time that I got my first headship, and he'd walk in unannounced, but instantly engage you with incredible warmth, insight, humour, care. And so my first memories of Tim were him being incredibly encouraging, practically supportive. So throughout my headships in Birmingham for about 14 years, I used to live with a list of Tim Brighouse sayings or Tim Brighouse principles of headship. And there was something really energetic about Tim's advocacy of relentless curiosity, of brilliant questioning. I have to kind of look at notes just to remember the things that he said were always there in leadership. Brilliant urban leadership in challenging circumstances. We should always be creating energy, always building capacity, always seeking and chasing improvement, and living out the vision. But I think one of the most useful things that as leaders we can take with us from Tim were his descriptors of courageous leadership. They were a set of qualities that he saw as characteristics, and he would portray it as things that he'd observed in really great leaders around the place. And they were these. They were unwarranted optimism, regarding crisis as the norm, and seeing challenge always enabling learning and growth. If you just take those, we live at a time now where it's very easy for those of us in system leadership roles to acknowledge or recognise that this is the hardest time ever for education. Hard because of financial constraints, hard because teacher recruitment is not in a brilliant place, hard as we recover from the pandemic and the kind of the breaking of the social contract that has held education in place. What's great about Tim's focus on the personal qualities of leadership is that we have agency over those things. They are the things that we can choose, that we put on each day as we walk into school. How fantastic that Tim evokes in us, encourages in us, describes clearly how we should be, because that unwarranted optimism is what enables us to project hope and vision and a sense of positively moving forward when it's really tough for our staff, our teams. The second half of his leadership qualities, descriptors, are that we should manage complexity creatively and with enjoyment, but most of all, that we should have a bottomless well of intellectual curiosity, that sense of dealing with complexity, asking questions, thinking. Tim so modelled brilliant, fresh thinking. However grotty and difficult the situation, he engaged with things using his brain, and that just seemed so. It did. I experienced it. It got us so much further than being defeated by things that we can't change. But his last set of words are, for me, the best. That in our leadership, we should have a complete absence of paranoia, self-pity, ego, or a belief that we're always knowing best. And it's that sense of drawing on team, listening to the child, listening to the parent, listening to the new qualified teacher, listening to the visitor to the school, that recognises that around us there will always be people who are resources on whom we can mine the unexpected and turn into really powerful, useful things. So what's great about Tim's offering then for now is that they are immediately available starting points. They are things that we have access to that other people can't rob us of. So one of the things I love most about Tim was the fact that he saw that in other people, in the community that we work with of children, adults, parents, other professionals, the learning that you get from each other, that sense of continual improvement, we have access to so much. And that's why really Tim is the patron saint of BEP. Actually, I think if you dig back, you'll probably find that Tim Brighouse and his era gave birth to our consortia and our networks. He saw the value. I know he tried to put families of schools together, that he connected us for the very first time in schools by characteristic. And that's what BEP is about. It's about connecting us with each other. We don't have control over school budgets. We don't write the Ofsted framework. We don't pen the legislation that governs education in this country. But what we do is we champion the community of educators and of school leaders to come together and to encourage one another, to think together, to learn from one another's practice. And nobody can take that away from us in the way that Tim empowers us to see that amongst our community of schools in Birmingham, we've got so much that we can give one another freely, and that with curiosity, thinking, with an attitude of learning and growth, we can benefit so much.